Shrapnel.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, and welcome to Film Shrapnel, your number one spot for everything movies. My name's Tobias, this is my partner in crime, Craig, and today we are watching a bit of a twist, because I think people were expecting us to do Die Hard, and Die Hard 2 is also a Christmas movie. So, you know, kind of doing something a little bit different. We're going Die Hard 2, Die Harder.
Yeah, as it's sometimes called, yeah. We're actually doing something a bit different. Like, I don't think we've really done many films like this, really. Like, just actiony, silly craziness. Have we? Really? Not really.
I mean, like Ant-Man, RRR. We've done a
Yeah.
couple.
But I don't know. There's something about the 90s and the 80s ones that are a bit more... Maybe it's just the nostalgia talking.
Well, yeah, it's a different beast, isn't it? It's its own thing.
Yeah. It feels more fun sometimes. But yeah, by the way, speaking about this being should we go right into the debate about the Die Hard Christmas movie thing and just settle this early on? Is this a Christmas movie, really?
100%.
100%. But when you say that, do you mean it as in like, because the way I see it is,
It's Christmas
it's
Eve.
it's a Christmas movie because it's happening at Christmas, but it's not a Christmas movie in that it's not actually about Christmas. It just happens to be at Christmas that it's happening. That's how I kind of...
I defy anyone to watch this or the first one at Christmas time and not feel elated in a way that is quintessential to Christmas.
With that, I agree with, because I think I'm not really a Christmas person. Like, I don't really like Christmas stuff or Christmas films really, but I like this film, and this is for the people who are like me, who don't really like Christmas shit. So like, you can watch an action movie and it be Christmas, and the Christmas stuff's not really getting in the way. You know what I mean? So I can still enjoy this while it's Christmas time and not have to think about fucking Christmas all the time. You know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Or if I'm just
I totally agree. I'd much rather watch this than what's that movie? Merry Christmas Lamppost. What's that movie called? Life is Beautiful. Is that what it's called?
It's a Wonderful Life, I
It's
think.
a Wonderful Life. Yeah, It's a
Yeah.
Wonderful Life. Yeah, I'd much rather watch Die Hard. Much rather watch Die Hard. Although I will say this Die Hard movie is the one I've watched the least. It's the one I have the least memory of. It's definitely, I would say, the weakest of the franchise besides the last one, the fifth one in Russia.
Yeah. I haven't seen that last one.
I would say the last one is a bad movie. It's not good. But I would say the first four are good. Like, and not just good, but like I especially I think the first, the third, and the fourth are actually pretty good movies that just happen to be like Die Hard movies. But this one, it's a bit too tongue in cheek. It's a bit too spoofy of the first one to really be like a good movie, but it's still really fun.
Yeah, like I used to have this film on DVD. I think I got it for Christmas, funny enough. And I remembered it being better. I think I haven't watched this stuff for almost like 8-9 years or something. One thing that really didn't annoy me, but I did find a lot of the dialogue kind of cheesy, like not in
Yeah,
a nice way. You
there's
know
a
what I
lot of
mean?
there's a lot of cheesy bits. There's a lot of cheesy bits, and when you think of Die Hard, you don't really think of cheesy moments, but this film really has a lot of cheesiness, uh, and a lot of like really obscure moments as well. That it just doesn't feel like it feels like it definitely feels like a step down in terms of script writing, in terms of acting. Um, yeah, there's not. Yeah, it's a bit weird.
The biggest thing I was thinking about when watching this film, I also haven't watched the first I had in a while, but I remember a lot better. The thing about the first film that I thought was really great was that it was kind of like a greasy, sweaty survival kind of thing. I keep thinking of
Mm.
like Bruce Willis like running around bloodied in a vest, no shoes or socks on, feet are bleeding, crawling around air ducts, trying to fight these guys with basically nothing that he has on him. And this film didn't have that so much. I think what they tried to
Yeah.
do is keep it in one location, an airport, but I don't know. It felt
Well,
too a bit of everywhere.
there's a line in the movie later on where he goes, "How could the same thing happen to the same guy twice?" And I've got a note here that says, "Yeah, but this time you've got shoes on, so the
Yeah, and a
stake,
jacket.
so the stakes aren't as high."
Yeah,
Well,
like
I would say this movie it is they've just done the first movie again, but they've done it in an airport and they've increased the stakes. They've made more hostages. There's a lot more hostages. There's a lot more lives at stake. Um, and you know you still, but the thing I love how in the first one it's just like a no nonsense cop that's meant to be on a break and he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time, whereas this one he's at an airport and like okay you could argue his policeman intuition kicks in, but like there are several points where you could have just been like yeah you know what, I'll leave you guys take it from here, like he really didn't need to keep it going, I don't think.
yeah, and everyone keeps dragging him along. Like, come on,
Certainly,
McLean.
certainly at the beginning, I felt like he's just being a nosy Parker that just happened to be right.
Yeah,
But I do quite like, I do quite like this movie because it does feel like a spoof of the original. I like the bad guy, this like Colonel Stewart. We first meet him
mm.
while he's working out naked, and then
That's
he,
very iconic. I think when I think of this movie,
yeah,
that's one of the first things I remember is a guy doing yoga naked in a
yeah.
hotel room.
But what I didn't remember, and it made me think, oh, you're actually a real twat. Uh, he quick draws the remote control to change the channel on his TV, and he's a grown man naked. When like when you put the two together, it's a bit strange. I thought,
It's very immature, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like a kid. Wah! Watch me. Look what I can do. Yeah.
I feel like if we'd ever had a scene with him in the toilet, he would have been stood at a urinal, but holding up his t-shirt to his shoulders and his pants down to his ankles, just
Yeah,
humming.
like Butters from South Park.
Yeah, yeah. Lou, 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 you got some apples. Yeah. Um, I do like this sort of the era. I do love have a big nostalgia for this era of like pages and payphones. Um, I especially like I have this nostalgia for an era where Bruce Willis is a credible action hero as well. I have to say, to today's standards, watching these old Die Hard movies, uh, I don't understand why he's like such an iconic action hero. I don't know why he got the role of John McClane.
Yeah. I don't know much about his career before Die Hard, really. So I'm not really sure what he did before that could have got him the Die
Mm.
Hard role.
I think Die Hard
Uh
was his first movie.
nah, I'm sure he probably made some stuff before that. I'm sure he probably did.
I'm
Probably
pretty
small
sure.
roles.
I mean,
That's a
maybe
big jump.
maybe some TV stuff. I'll have a look.
Mm.
It's
You
always
know, he's
you looking.
always
It's always you looking this stuff up. I'll have a look this time.
yeah. I'll tell you some random stuff I found out about. Well, I didn't really research it too much.
No,
But I did.
I don't have any trivia. I don't think
I
anything
have one.
any trivia I might have is just for my own knowledge, not rather than like looking anything up.
Fair play. The only bit of trivia that I can give you is the actress that plays Holly, McLean's wife.
Yeah.
Do you know who she's related to?
Do I know who she's related to?
She's the aunt of a bunch of famous actors. Famous.
Well, then I'm gonna say she's a Baldwin then.
No, she's a
Oh.
Culkin.
What? She's a
Yeah,
Culkin.
her original last name was actually Culkin. She's the aunt of Macaulay and Kieran Culkin and the other Culkin brothers.
No way. Rory
Yeah,
Culkin and all that. Yeah. All right. Yeah. You cool. I didn't know that at all. I had
yeah,
no knowledge. I mean, I'll pull out the only trivia I can is that Bruce Willis's real name is Walter.
yeah. Oh, what a name,
Okay,
Walter
so
Willis.
I've got it here. So his first stuff, he was actually acting all throughout the 80s. And don't forget that the first Die Hard is 89 or 80. Oh,
Hmm.
it's listed here 88, but I'm sure it was 89. But it's here as 88. Uh, but he'd done a bunch of like, he'd done an episode of The Twilight Zone, Miami Vice, a couple of TV roles, and he'd done like the odd TV movie.
Hmm.
Um, one where he's the main character, The Return of Bruno. Never heard of it. Uh,
So it sounds like, from what you're saying, that Die Hard was really his big break. They made him from a TV guy to a film guy, to not even just a film guy, but a film star, basically.
guess so.
Yeah, makes sense. By the way, speaking of random actors and shit in this film, fucking Cole Meany is in this film as well. Did you
Right.
notice?
So I noticed. So should we go through the act? I noticed that Cole Meany was in it. I noticed that um, I forget his name now. Is it like Robert Patrick or something?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
T1000. It's
yeah.
T
It's a
Liquid
bit where,
Terminator.
yeah, I remember this shot exactly. Like, what does this look like to you, or something, or what do we look like to you? And he says, like sitting ducks, and he turns and starts shooting, and then
Yeah,
moments later he's killed. Yeah, I remember that.
but I mean, I know I've got a note somewhere, but like I remember thinking when he gets killed, I was like, but they're only real bullets. We know that real bullets can't kill Liquid Terminator. So I was confused that he didn't just stand up and keep coming.
Hmm.
I found that confusing. Um, but also, did you notice that John Leguizamo's in it as well?
You know what? I was looking at the cast after, and I saw, what? He's in this. I didn't recognize him at all. It was only after that I looked back at pictures. Ah,
There-
okay.
There's a
He's
bit.
really young.
There's a bit where they're in the church. I think they just take over the church or something. But I seem to remember him like shooting a gun out of a window. But that was he's just like
Ah,
he's one of the baddies. He's
does he
just a
even have lines?
I don't believe so, no.
No, too early on in his career, I guess.
Yeah.
But he did make the Mario Brothers movie only a few years later, I think. I think that was early 90s, wasn't it?
I believe it'd been like the next year.
Ah, really? Huh.
I'm
Huh.
pretty sure
Okay.
because I think it was like 93 and Die Hard 2 was
1990.
1990 was it? Okay, they knocked
Yeah.
this one out quickly then. They got this one out
This,
fast.
yeah, this film is only a year older than you are, I think, right? Which
Yeah,
is funny because you're nostalgic for this era, but it's before
pretty
your time.
pretty much. But like oh, I suppose so like is Die Hard 3 like 95? Cuz I'm sure it's after Pulp Fiction. Hang
I
on.
wouldn't be surprised.
Hang
We've
on.
got Samuel
Let me
Jackson in that as well.
yeah, I'll just go back cuz I've 90. Yeah, it is 95.
Yeah, makes
And
sense.
yes, Sam Jackson is in that as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know what?
speaking of like people in the sequels, there are some people that aren't in any of the sequels, but are in this one and the first one. So
Hmm.
we have Holly, the love interest of Bruce Willis. After this film, she never returns. We just hear about her like in conversations, but we never see her. We've seen like a picture, but we never see her character return.
Are we supposed to
Um,
assume that they divorced?
yeah, well, yeah, they specify it. They make it
Uh-huh.
clear because in Die Hard 4, their daughter comes to stay with him, but she doesn't want to talk to him. So
Yeah.
yeah, she's not in it. but the daughter's in it. So they do mention we do get mention of Holly again, but we don't ever see her again.
Hmm.
Um, and also in this film, we get a cameo from Al from the first film, the guy who was outside talking to him on the radio in the first film.
Yeah,
He has a little cameo where he looks up some fingerprints for John McClane, and I can't help but feel like this movie, it would have been so much better if Al was a continual part of the movie, if he kept being this guy you had to call to get like information or something, I don't know, because the police there aren't helping you, so you've got to go rogue and do it yourself, so you're asking Al to look up shit for you. Like,
I would
yeah,
like that as well.
yeah, that would have been so much better. And fuck it, have Al fly there to help. He's one of the plane. He's on one of the planes. Fuck it. Oh, that'd have been funny. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah. I would have liked more Al, and then instead we get like these sort of characters get replaced by what's his name? I think it's like Murray the janitor. Hang on, let me go through my notes. I forget what his name is.
I didn't write down his name, but I remember. Yeah, there was a janitor guy. They tried to make him a bit loopy. Uh, didn't really work so much, I think.
Oh,
And
his
then we
name's
had
his name's Marvin. I've written it
okay,
down.
Marvin.
His name's Marvin.
Yeah. But speaking of characters that returned, we also had the journalist from the first movie,
Yes,
uh, who just
yes.
happened to be on the same plane. And you know what? Like, I do like this film, but I do get sometimes bored when there's like a journalist who's the asshole kind of character. I know that he's kind of trying to be a bit he's a bit self-centered. He's doing it mostly for himself to have a good story. But like, does he like? What
I
are we
mean,
trying to say here about journalists? Like,
I don't mind it as much as you, but at the same time, I feel like it's no surprise that these characters never appear again. Like not Al, but I would have loved Al to keep appearing in more movies. But the reporter guy and Holly, like their story really does extend the film longer than it needs to be. This film could have been an hour and a half. This film didn't need
hmm,
to be as long. Like one of my main criticisms is the first film. I'm pretty sure it's like 10 minutes. So you get him on the plane. He talks about his feet being sore, and then they set up him not wearing shoes. Then he gets in the
hmm.
limo with Argyle, and then Argyle takes him, and they build a rapport. Argyle was cool. Everyone loves Argyle. Would have loved Argyle to come back. Um, and then he goes up. He talks to Holly. They're not getting on well. We meet Ellis, the cokehead. Meanwhile, we start seeing clips of Alan Rickman and his team, sort of setting things up. And then within 10 minutes, the terrorists have taken over the building and the movie has really started, right? It's really succinct, the beginning of the first Die Hard. I'm sure it's only a good 10 minutes before shit really starts kicking off and it gets exciting. Now,
Mm.
this film, I would say it takes a good 40 minutes for the good
40 minutes just maybe a push,
I think it
I
takes
think.
about
But
40 minutes for things to get good. Don't forget, okay, there's a bit early on where they have like a little mini shootout in the baggage separation area. But you can't really call that a very good action scene. And I think it takes a good 40 minutes for things to start really picking up in terms of pace. And like, I don't think it's bad setup. I just think it's very, very long-winded setup because they're spending a lot of time showing John McClane getting pushed back from this Lorenzo, the Captain Lorenzo,
Captain
uh,
Lorenzo.
Captain
Yeah.
Lorenzo, and his brother Vinny or whatever. Brother
Vito.
Vito. Um, but yeah, like we spend a lot of time with this, and it seems like he's right about fucking everything, and they keep telling him to fuck off. They keep telling him he's wrong, even though he's been right about every fucking thing leading up to it. And it's just so long-winded, and I just feel like you could have accomplished all of that storytelling in half the time. A 15-20 minute opening,
Yeah.
establishing all that, and
You
then
could have.
okay, you could have extended the arguing with like the authorities of the airport. Okay, fine, that's fine, but the crux of the plot doesn't really uh like, because they only really get on board with it at the end, so the crux of the plot doesn't really fall on that. And so you'd rather them just stop wasting time doing basically the same scene over and over again of him getting pushed back from the same asshole. And yeah, it just that takes up too much time. The Holly stuff on the plane takes up too much time. um and I'd also say the action scenes are nowhere near as long as they should be. Very quick,
Yeah.
very quick in comparison to the first one.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on maybe the. I think then we needed Holly on the plane for the stakes.
Well, yeah,
Although, to be fair, if there's like a lot of planes up there and like a lot of people are gonna die, maybe that's enough stakes. But I think Holly
well,
helped us kind of relate
I,
to the
I,
people on the plane.
I
Otherwise, it's
would,
just numbers.
I would agree that all those planes are stakes enough, because Die Hard 3 with a Vengeance um,
Hmm.
is probably, arguably, the best one, and it's the only one that he doesn't have personal stakes in. It's just a guy doing the right thing, but also he's being targeted as well because it's fallout from the first movie. But you know, he doesn't have personal stakes in it, and it's
Yeah.
probably the most fun. But I would also say Die Hard 3 probably 20-30 minutes longer than it needs to be.
Yeah. I do agree with you also on the amount of time it takes for things to start moving with like the police like listening to him. Like you could just really do that as you're going,
Yeah,
really.
absolutely. I totally get what you're doing in the storytelling. It's just, do we have to see this done this many times? Like, I get it. They don't listen to him. Okay, can we just see him figuring shit out and getting on with shit now? Like that's
Yeah.
the fun part of Die Hard. Getting John McClane out there, fucking, using his like street smarts to deal with, sort of classy terrorists.
Yeah, in this case, not so classy though.
Well, no,
Speaking of the
no.
bad guys, we haven't actually discussed who they are yet.
So yeah, they're
So,
they're like they're like a mercenaries that you were like ex-military, and they're hired by some drug kingpin.
mm,
That's it, right?
well, so I think this is actually based on a situation that happened in Nicaragua. So basically, there was this whole scandal. Have you heard of the Contras?
Yeah.
So basically, in Nicaragua, I think communists are taken over, or there was a group of like right wing group called the Contras, and they were fighting against the communists in Nicaragua. And the US government was giving them tons of money to fight them, and they were super violent and they did a lot of bad shit. Like they were listed as like a terrorist organization, and they even got involved in cocaine trafficking. And there's even like, did you ever watch American Dad?
I did.
There was one episode where they talk about a guy called Oliver North, and he was this American general who was really involved in this. And they were like, I think, selling weapons somehow to Iran to make money to give to the Contras to fight the communists. But at the same time, they were like selling cocaine to America. And it was a really fucking big scandal. And I think this happened in the 80s. So I think that I don't know enough about the situation. If anyone knows, by the way, who's listening, please chime in. I think that this is based on that because so we have this America, Nicaraguan. No, sorry, it's some Latin American country. They always make up a random name for some place that doesn't exist in
Mm.
Central America. It's smuggling drugs, dictatorship. And so this guy is being flown from where he was caught in Latin America to the US for his for drug trial, or whatever. And we have our American soldiers or ex, as you said, like basically mercenaries now. uh, trying to basically catch him as he lands in America and fly him back to Latin America. Which, by the way, reminds me of a big note I have. Doesn't the plot of this film feel a lot like Con Air?
Yeah, I was feeling very Con Air vibes with this
A
one.
lot.
Yeah, but the thing is, uh, this one is that sort of cheesiness. Like the other Die Hard films aren't cheesy, but Con Air very cheesy, and this Die Hard film has that level of cheese and planes,
Yeah.
airports. It's difficult not to separate them. That there's a line. I really like this line, but not probably not because it's good. Um, he says, "What sets off the metal detectors first?" He says this to Lorenzo. He goes, "Oh, Lorenzo, what sets off the metal detectors first? The lead in your ass or the shit in your brain?" Like that.
uh,
Like that's the sort of stuff we're working with this film, and that's very Con Air.
yeah. Speaking of cheesy lines, early on, when before everything starts taking off, and we're still establishing everything. There's a bit where McClane calls Holly on the plane, and they start talking about like technology. It's like, honey, it's the '90s, remember? And it's like, oh, do we have to do that? Like to establish the time period? Oh, it's so modern now. Like that's really dated quite
I mean,
badly, in my
but then
opinion.
when she does that though, there's like yeah, because it's a pager that gives his location away at one point as well. So like
Yeah.
technology's a bad thing. Uh, but there's a bit where yeah, I think it's the same scene. She calls him and they talk, and then the woman says technology's good, and then she pulls out a taser, and then she
Yes.
she talks about how she practiced with it on her dog.
Yeah, she's a bit fucked up, isn't she? And
Well,
what was that with the
the
electric effects of that taser as well? We didn't need that.
yeah, a bit
That was
weird, right? But I have to say, I don't think anything odd like that in the dialogue is present in the first one or the third one for that matter.
Yeah, and like I really, when I think of the first one, I'm also thinking of Alan Rickman and his charisma,
Oh
and
God, yeah.
this film doesn't really have it. It completely missed. Like, it doesn't have that at all. It really feels like they
There's
could have done like another once over of the dialogue and stuff in this film, and just made it
this
a little bit sharper, just a little tiny bit.
this
You know?
movie has an Alan Rickman shaped hole.
Yeah.
Even the third one realized that this one was missing Alan Rickman, so they put ties to Alan Rickman in the third one, and they do clips from the first one to make sure you remember Alan Rickman. So Alan Rickman is in the first one in a flashback, in the third one in a flashback.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't
So
seen the third one in quite a while.
yeah, but you need Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman makes Die Hard. Like we all say, John McClane's awesome and badass, and he is. But Hans Gruber was like the Darth Vader. You need a great villain to make a great hero, and the villains are always the more fun. And Alan Rickman is
Mm.
just yeah. Hans Gruber is great, one of the best all movie villains ever. Um,
Yeah.
when he calls Al, and I do like Al. When he calls Al, I think it's when he calls Al, he says, "You're not pissing into somebody's pool, are you?" When he asks for information, and then McClane goes, "Yeah, and I'm all out of chlorine." What's that meant to mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, it gives you a very strange image in your head, like you're pissing and then you're adding the chlorine after to cover up your piss. But then why were you pissing and why were you so prepared? I don't know.
I don't
It
think
doesn't
this
make sense.
the metaphor just doesn't work.
It's even grandiose to call it a metaphor, is it?
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely. Yeah, I would say so.
By the way, so can we talk about some other random stuff? Because there's some more stuff that doesn't make sense to me. There's two things that are burning in my mind right now. Uh, One, some of the slowest grenades I've ever seen in my life explode.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna point this out. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I've never, let off a grenade outside of Call of Duty. But if Call of Duty's anything to go by, this guy should have been dead well before he managed to even get in the chair.
Yes, definitely. And like, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, so related to planes again. Uh, at the end of this movie, this is the thing that I find the most annoying about Die Hard 2. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
Hmm.
Uh, so the bad guys are about to take off in their military plane to go back to their fake Nicaragua country in Central America. And they were celebrating and happy. And McLean somehow manages to get on the wing, and he jams a jacket in one of the I don't even know what you call it, but like a part of the wing that's supposed to close.
Yeah,
And so they need to get rid of him because he's fucking up the plane. And then there's a fight on the wing, and McLean knocks the traitor guy, the military guy. By the way, I forgot that he became a bad guy in this film. Okay, kind of surprised a little bit.
I
Um,
wasn't. I wasn't.
yeah,
Even
fair enough.
even even if I hadn't remembered it, I think they make it so bloody obvious.
Yeah. So anyway, McLean kicks him into the engine and he dies. You know, they always have to have a thing like that. I can remember, like, even
I
from the
think
shot
that.
that they had earlier, it's like someone's going to fall into that engine. It's just going to happen in this film.
Yeah,
And the guy
well,
does.
but this is it. It's like Indiana Jones. Like since they did it, like they just always have to kick someone into like propellers. It's just so
Yeah.
it's like you have to do it. If you've got a plane in a movie or a helicopter, and it's an action, you better consider it at least.
Yeah, it's a very fucked up way to die. But the thing that annoys me is that so it's not a problem for the plane if a body gets thrown into the engine and fucks up the engine, but it is a problem if the jacket is stuck in the wing. Oh, that we can't take off of that jacket there, but the engine basically being fucked. No, not a problem. You can still fly. Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, but again, I don't know the science behind it, but I've got a feeling because again, I'm sure birds get sucked into there all the time when they're flying, and it
And that
doesn't
can fuck
cause.
up an engine, I think. I think it can actually.
Can it
I
fuck up
think,
an?
yeah, I think they're more fragile than people. I don't know why everyone thinks they're like indestructible and just cut up shit like they're a blender and then
Well,
spit it out the back. I don't think that's how they work.
because of Die Hard 2.
Yeah, maybe it's because maybe Die Hard 2 is a problem.
Hmm.
But yeah, that makes for me that made no sense that the jacket was a problem, but yeah, someone swallowed being swallowed by the engine is no problem.
Hmm. No, I think that's
Anyway,
I think that's a fair criticism.
anyway, that's my two biggest complaints that I've just given you.
Fair. I think they're fair complaints. I don't have much to moan about. It's just not hitting the heights of the first one. Or any of
Yeah,
them for that matter. Because I like the idea of hacking into planes and stuff, so they think they're higher than they really are. You can hack into their radio waves, so you can like give them false, information. I like this as a concept. It's quite spooky. I've been on a lot of planes recently, and yeah, it's quite a scary thought. So yeah, I quite like the idea. It genuinely uh, it genuinely works as like something quite viscerally scary to even consider. Um,
mm,
and then they actually do blow up the plane. I didn't think I'd forgotten that they actually do blow up a plane coming in from London, flown by the
a
great
plane of British people,
a plane of British people, and Cole Meany is at the wheel, and I really didn't think I thought they were going to land. Like they when they hit the runway, we get an interior shot. They just sort of like rock about a bit, and I'm like, oh okay, they'll be all right. And then it does fucking blow up, and everyone died, and you're like, oh shit, the stakes are high in this one. Like no one, I think think you can, besides the terrorists, I think only like 2 or 3 people die in the first Die Hard,
Mm.
like civilians. But in this one, they kill off an entire airplane of passengers. Uh, and again, this is about the 40-minute mark, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, and McLean is even a bit sad at one point. But it's always the British people, though. Kill them off first.
Well,
Uh,
yeah.
Mind you, I did think that the explosion was very small. I think it should have been a bigger explosion. Same with the
Well, yeah.
explosion at the end. I think if you blow up a plane, I think it's a lot bigger than that. I
Mm.
don't know. That's just
Yeah,
my
no,
expectation.
I don't disagree. I was expecting a bigger, more climactic experience with a plane blowing up.
Yeah, and there was even actually when that first plane blows up, I have a note that the way that Willis jumps away looks really bad. Actually, it just kind of explodes and he just does a little jump, and it seems so delayed from the explosion that I thought that's probably the naffest part of the movie in terms of action. I thought that was
Mm.
a bit bad.
Can I tell you something that I hate about this movie?
Go on, I'm all ears.
Um, they have this trope of a lot of sequels of the time where the events of the first film have made the main character famous. So now
Mm.
everyone recognizes them and like, hey yo, Nakatomi Tower, and it's like, would people really like? Does that really happen? That like, would that really get you famous?
I agree. I also noted that it's like every other third person. It's like, you're that guy, you're John McClane, and like you're a hero. No, I don't think so. I think probably if something like that happened, no one would know who you are. Maybe you'd be famous for like 5 minutes, and then people would forget you. Especially if it's a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Like,
I was very. I don't like the idea that 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 he's famous now, and that the bad guy knows who he is as well.
mm,
The bad guy knows who he is, and yeah, there's a really annoying bit where the bad guys have had no context as to like what's been going on with McClane. As far as they're concerned, an ambush went wrong, and the plan's going fine. But they know John McClane is like in the airport, but they don't know that he's doing a Die Hard on them. And you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And so when he's on that plane just before the grenade bit, he shouts up, "McClane, I assume it's you, McClane." And it's like, but why do you assume it's him? There's actually no reason why he would think it was John McClane that's causing them
yeah.
problems.
Yeah. You just reminded me of something else. Do you remember the whole part where they find the church where they're doing their operation from the kind of their base of operations?
Yeah.
Uh, there's this whole fight bit that I thought was really pointless that I don't think needed to happen. So they get to so they find it basically because they find there's an old map and the airport was getting bigger or something. I can't remember. And so they go there because it's like an easy access point for the bad guys to get to things on the airstrip. And McLean decides to go and investigate first before he goes in. Uh, One of the guy who's with him is like one of the guys from the air control tower is like, I'm not sure if there's anything suspicious about this place. And McLean's like, well, why is he walking in his own footsteps or something like this? It's like, okay, one,
Mm.
you wouldn't be able to see that from there. Like even the shot is like, you're way too far to see that he's walking in his own footprints. Um, but the thing I wonder what was the point of this scene is because he goes over, his beeper goes off, and then they have a big fight, and he ends up stabbing a guy in the eye with an ice pick, and he dies. And then immediately after that, he goes back to the air controller guy, and then the military arrive to help. And like that whole thing was pointless. He didn't need to go over there. If he waited just a minute more, he would have got backup. Like
Yeah.
there was no need to fight, except it's like they wanted. Oh, we need to have we need to have a fight with an icicle going in someone's eye. Like that's really all that served.
I
Yeah.
agree. Sorry, I just had a bite of something.
I'm actually really hungry. Probably if people listening to this might hear my stomach growl a little bit here and there. Uh,
I'm very hungry.
yeah, but yeah, really thinking about it. Comparing this one to the first film, it's not as it doesn't hit the right mark in many ways. I do think probably this one has a much bigger budget than the first one. That's
Yeah,
isn't that a
definitely.
similar
Yeah,
kind of story, isn't it? When you make a sequel, you bring back a lot of the same characters.
you do
Uh,
the same thing again, but bigger.
yeah, and like I think the script hasn't been polished enough. Like I think probably when they made the first one, whoever wrote it was like, okay, we've got this new idea. Uh, gonna make sure it's really well written so people wanna to buy in and make this film. So they make the script like sparkly and shiny and as amazing as it can be. Second film, you've already got the go ahead from the producers and the studios. So it's like, okay, quickly, come on, write something quick. Let's make this film. And so they don't have enough time, and the script is not as well polished as it was the first time. But they have more money, so they can do some bigger stuff. But there are some problems here and there.
Well, I mean, because a lot of the lines are just sort of references to like, "Oh, I'm doing this again," and like it doesn't feel. And there's so many great lines in the original, and this one, the quotable lines are quotable because they're not that good. Like, um, oh God, what was that one? He says to her, I think they go in the elevator shaft, and he goes, "Shh, I've done this before." And there's another one where he's like, "Are you not an asshole after all?" It's like, "I am. I'm just your kind of asshole."
Mm.
Uh, Actually, I didn't mind the asshole line. There's a lot of like cheesy lines, uh, whereas the original, even if there's an like an undertone of cheese, it's still a good line, highly quotable. This one, not so quotable.
Yeah. By the way, I have a question. So after this film, we have three more Die Hard films. There's five in total.
Five in
The o-
total.
the other three are not during Christmas. Why?
Um,
Unless I'm mistaken. I
no,
haven't
no,
seen the fifth, but I know that the
no. You're not
third and
mistaken.
fourth are definitely not during Christmas.
You're not mistaken. Only the first two.
I don't know why they did that. I think they should have kept it Christmas. Need something to look forward to at Christmas. Even if I don't always agree with it being great, at least it's something, you know?
Let's hope Die Hard 6 bring it back.
Well, there's not going to be a Die Hard 6, most likely, is there?
Yeah, there is.
Is there?
Yeah.
You're lying. Because
So,
Willis is out of acting now, isn't he? Because of
so
his
the
condition.
so the story I heard was someone who's a big Die Hard fan spent all their money putting a two-page pitch for Die Hard in like Time magazine or something. And it was like, Hollywood, let me make this movie. It's called McClane, and it was like a John McClane prequel. And apparently, people loved it so much that they were like, you know what, go on then, fuck it, we'll let you make this movie. And I hope that's true. I'm sure I read this somewhere.
I have to do a quick Google search to disprove you.
Look it up.
Oh my god, there is really a film called McLean.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh no, sorry. No, since Die Hard 6 was ultimately cancelled, I see.
No. But it was a prequel.
I don't know.
You could get a different guy.
Hold on, let me check. We can cut out this if it takes too long to check, but we have to know this for sure. Good Day to Die Hard. So Good Day to Die Hard was the last film. That was 2013. That film is already 10 years old. How weird is that? I can't comprehend that.
Well, there you go, son.
By the way, in Die Hard 5, I
Mhm.
saw that there's another bald guy with McClane. Is he supposed to be his son?
Yeah, it's Jai Courtney.
I don't know who that is.
Um, what would you know him from? Um, Terminator Genesis.
Didn't watch it.
Um,
Is he
he's
a known actor?
yeah, he's in Terminator Genesis as Carl Reese, and he's in the Suicide Squad as Captain Boomerang.
Hmm. Well, don't know it. Let me give you some information then. Uh, I'm going to briefly skim. There's actually a big section on. So if you go on Wikipedia, you go on the Die Hard film franchise uh,
Mm-hmm.
page. There is a whole bit about the future of the franchise. Uh, so I see there was McLean was not happening. It was as early as 2021. They said so a couple of years ago.
That's a
Uh,
shame.
yeah, that's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
I see some. There was some stuff about maybe making a TV series as well. Something about McLean and Jodie Holly's characters in the 70s. I don't know. I'm not going to read all of this, but yeah, there were ideas. There were plenty of ideas. They were not sure of that. They were going to make something, but they ended up not. Maybe it
Yeah,
might
see,
have been interesting.
I'm not really sure I want to see any more Die Hard. Like, I love the original. I love the third one and the fourth one. This one I like a lot, but I wouldn't say I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't mind this one. I can put this on during Christmas, um, or just Die Hard itself, even, and I'm fine. I'm pretty good. I'm not expecting much. I'll probably be drinking and eating crap, so I'll be good.
And
Playing with my
and
toys.
and this one has snow bike chases, which is always fun.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Which, by the way, I kind of appreciated. There was a bit when they were chasing each other on a snow bike or snowmobile. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Whatever
Uh,
they're called.
they so they got like a kind of a snow ramp and they smash into the ice and they keep going and it's kind of like it breaks a little bit, which I kind of appreciated because it like just a reminder that the ice is not like uh invincible. It will break even if you like going really super fast on like a snowmobile or whatever.
Yeah, I seem to recall that. Yeah, where
A couple of moments.
it cracks underneath him as he
Yeah.
accelerates. Yeah, yeah. No, I
So
do love a jet ski chase. I love any action in like snowy terrain. It's really fun. Her Majesty's Secret Service, one of my favorite Bond films.
yeah.
Skiing action, love it. Love
So we
action.
talked. So yeah, well, I'm thinking now. We can mention some of the stuff that we actually liked about this film because I think we've actually roasted it a fair bit. I didn't actually, by the way, mean to do that. It's just that my notes. Maybe I'm just a negative person and my notes are just mostly negative, or maybe it's just because we've watched so many bad films recently that it's kind of stuck with me, and now I'm looking for bad things. Um,
Well, I'll save my rating for the end, but as much as I've enjoyed this one, um, like the first Die Hard film, I'd put it like a 9. So you'll see at the end how much of a drop off this one is to the first one for me. I can equate it into a number for you.
yeah, I
Um,
already have a number in mind as well.
so do
Actually,
I. So do I. So do I. I've got my number written down. Um, I've got a note here actually. I have you seen Snake Eyes with Nick Cage? Brian De Palma directs.
no, I haven't. I've heard about it. I need to watch it. If we do another cage match, we should definitely watch it.
Which I quite like Snake Eyes. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I quite like it. But the whole film, it's a 2 hour film, and the whole film transpires over a 2 hour period. So the whole film happens in real time.
I like that idea. That's a good idea. I have actually wanted to make something like that myself
Yeah,
to stick it within that kind of time frame.
sort of like 24, right? Um,
Hmm.
and I felt that this film felt very much like that. I felt this film felt very one thing after another. Um, the movie's a 2 hour 10-minute movie. I
Hmm.
felt like this movie. I felt like the story takes 2 hours to unfold.
Yeah, I didn't really notice that, but now you mention it, that makes a lot of sense. And
Mm.
actually, I think if you think of the other Die Hard movies, I think that's a common theme about them because I think the
Yes.
others are also like that.
Yes, I was just going to say, yeah, that seems to be the one sort of motif that's managed to, that hasn't been written out. You know,
Yeah,
Christmas, okay, has been written out. Holly's been written out, but the element of, sort of like real time, uh, immediate danger, immediate need for, you know, action and response. Yeah, all of them, all of
that
them.
is John McClane's MO. That
That
is
is his
his.
MO.
Yeah, he's a person who relies on his instincts and reacts in the moment, and so like the film has to be about someone like that because if it wasn't like that, he wouldn't fit. He's not someone who's a long term thinker who has, you know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah,
a person who's the right because they always like the joke is that he's the wrong person at the wrong time, but actually he's the right person at the right time because he knows he just has the instincts to react uh, in the
the
moment.
the only man who can do the job.
Exactly, yeah. By the way, random note I have. If they remade this film, you know who I think could play the bad guy?
No, 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 no.
Glenn
That's-
Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I think he would have made a really good bad guy,
yeah,
replacing the guy in it. Yeah,
I can
I
see
could see
that,
it.
but you would never remake Die Hard. That would be wrong.
No. But I do sometimes wonder when I watch films like this, particularly sequels, if they were supposed to be Die Hard movies or and like or they like a film that someone else wrote and then they took the plot and they turned it into a Die Hard movie. Because one of the things I remember reading about, for example, the Hellraiser franchise, they did that a lot. Like they had a script for something else, but they just like, okay, let's just can we turn this into a Hellraiser movie and then just put what's his name Pinhead in the film, you know. And I'm wondering if a similar thing happened with Die Hard, where they have an action franchise. Like someone wrote a film. I don't know if someone will buy it. Oh, what if we turn it into a Die Hard movie? People will definitely watch it. Get Bruce Willis in. Can you tweak the script a little bit to make it into a Die Hard movie? Because again, just thinking about how different this is from the first one in terms of like, I really think the first one really has a survival feel to it, while this
Yeah.
doesn't really have that. You know, Uh, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents
Well,
on it.
I mean, I get the vibe of that, but yeah, it isn't a survival movie. It's a stop a bad guy movie.
Hmm. And save the wife.
And
Oh,
and the
by
and the third one is a survival movie.
yeah, I need to watch that one again. To be honest, maybe we need to do some franchises at some point and watch all of these. I don't know.
Yeah, we
We
could have
can,
done Die Hard month. That would have been really fun.
that's definitely still an idea. It's not off the table. There's still a possibility. By the way, I've just realised we're about 54 minutes in, so I think we need to start
Mm.
wrapping this one up. I think I've ranted a lot in this one. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Okay. Let's just talk really quickly about the ending then. Um,
Yes.
there's another reporter that we haven't mentioned, a reporter that's in the airport, and McLean has decided, if you give me your helicopter so I can go after the plane, I'm going to go jump on the plane. I'll give you the exclusive story or whatever. Um, and she went, if you give me the story, I'll have your babies. And
Yeah.
he goes, it's not the kind of ride I was looking for.
Uh,
Just
cringy, isn't it?
just another reason why this movie is a huge step down from the first one.
Like, have you also noticed that's the second time a woman has kind of like thrown themselves at him? Like at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, there was that woman with the fax machine.
Yeah,
Yeah, what are you doing after this kind of thing? And it's like, come on, please.
yeah, it's a bit
Yeah,
silly. Bit silly. Um, so he jumps on the plane from the helicopter. They have the fight. We've talked about the fight. Guy gets sucked into the engine. We know. Fist fight with Glenn Howerton. Um, and then he blows up the plane, but like obviously he opens the fuel thing, so it leaves a big
yeah.
trail along the runway. So then he blows it up and allowing Holly's plane to land. And this is when he gives us the line that we've been waiting the whole movie for: "Yippee ki yay, motherfucker!"
He only says it once in the whole film. I'm not sure how much he says it in the first one.
Once,
Uh,
he
once. Is it only once each time?
once every film, no more than
Uh
once.
huh.
Yeah,
I never noticed that before because it's
yeah.
so synonymous with him that you just expect it all the time. But yeah, it's really only once in the film that he says it.
Funny enough, I believe Die Hard 4 suffered censorship problems, so it was actually suitable for wider audiences. And when he says it in the fourth one, he's got the bad guy behind him, and the way he defeats the bad guy is he shoots himself, so the bullet goes through him and it gets the bad guy. And when he shoots himself, that's when he says "Yippee ki yay, motherfucker!" But he pulls the trigger right before he says the "fucker" part, so it's
Ah,
technically censored. And so yeah, they were allowed it.
yeah, that's not okay. We want the
No,
motherfucker.
we want the motherfucker. Yeah, I want the
That's
motherfucker.
You've depressed me with that news. By the way, another thing, I'm sorry, I'm complaining a lot, but do you think that if a plane was leaking all that fuel, that a flame could like fly up the leaking fuel and float up in the air? Or do you think that's not possible? I don't know. If it's
I
moving too
mean,
fast.
I don't know. I'm not. I've never really experimented with like setting things on fire, so I
You
don't
had a
really
boring
know.
childhood.
I'm not a fire starter.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I don't think that was very realistic. I think it probably wouldn't have worked that way. Because if you're going fast enough to lift off from the air, I think you're probably going fast enough to outrun the fluid, the whatever it was, the
Yeah,
kerosene.
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, but again, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe our knowledge of gasoline is just not quite the expert level we thought.
Stop eating your food and give
No.
us a verdict.
Okay, hang on.
Are you
Hold
eating
up.
Christmas dinner?
No, chicken curry. Okay, let's do it. All right. Um, so I would give this IMDb rating. I give this 6.5 out of 10.
Oh, I was going to give it 6.4,
Oh, well,
actually.
pretty much the same. All right.
Yeah.
But out of five Hans Grubers, I'll give it four. Still very,
Really?
still very fun.
Because Hans Gruber is so, I don't know, iconic and like enjoyable to watch. I don't know. I don't know if I'll give him that many. I mean, I'll give it maybe a three, I think, because this
I
he
think when we finally get to the action, it's good action.
yeah, it's decent. It's decent. Uh
Takes a
but
while
I
to get
just
there, but once you get there, I think
because you know what?
I do think the ejector seat thing is really cool.
Hmm. One of the most memorable things about it. I think
Yeah,
like what made the first one really good is it kind of like I feel I don't know enough about action movies, but I do feel that the first Die Hard movie kind of changed action a little bit. You know,
yeah,
uh, This doesn't feel like it's in the same vein as that, you know.
No, this feels more
Uh,
like a joke. This feels more
yeah.
like a spoof than
You know what?
anything.
I know I'm mentioning this very late because we're already past an hour, but there is one point where McLean does this thing where he's shooting and he's rolling. And you know what it reminds me of?
Go on.
Uh, there's this spoof of Lethal Weapon called Loaded Weapon. Have you seen it? It's got Emilio Estevez in it and Samuel Jackson. Uh,
Yeah.
and they also spoof this where like the guy, like Emilio Estevez, is like rolling on the ground shooting a gun, and it just looks really stupid. And it's the first thing I thought of when I saw that. And yeah, this movie doesn't really. It feels like it's trying to copy the first one, but it's forgotten what really made the first one really good.
Yeah, because
So
the first one's really special.
yeah, it's a very special movie, and this one doesn't quite hit the same place. Um, so out of I think I give it probably 3 out of 5 Hans Grubers. To be honest, I mean, I still watch it, I still like it, but compared to the first one, it makes me a little bit meh sometimes.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, well, we are Film Shrapnel, everyone. Thanks for coming out to listen to us. Go check us out on the app formerly known as Twitter, at Film Shrapnel, capital F, capital S. We are on a bunch of other platforms. Soon we're coming to YouTube. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, you name it, we're around. We're spreading like that COVID. Craig, do you want to say anything to the lovely listeners?
Not really, nothing crazy on top of my mind. Yeah, follow us. We'll be releasing more Christmassy stuff throughout December. We're still not 100% sure what it is yet, but you will know if you follow us on social media. And yeah, keep listening to us. Merry Christmas soon, I guess.
Yeah. And until next time, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!
Oh my God, you sang it.
Shrapnel.